Hello YouTubers, Alaska Prepper here. Well, welcome ladies and gentlemen. I hope you had a great weekend. Number one, I hope you had a great day off on Memorial Day, if you had that day off. If not, I'm sorry that you couldn't take the day off to celebrate those that came before us, that guaranteed what is, in my opinion, the freest nation in the history of mankind. But let me get off that soapbox and say that I have a couple of things that I want to talk about today that I think are pretty interesting. And one is a segue off of my Sunday video talking about tariffs. But first, let's talk about this right here. I've noticed over the past year, maybe almost two, that more and more governments are telling their citizens, hey, you have to prepare for whatever reason it may be. But it seems that lately it's the war drums that have been sounding off as far as why people need to prepare. Take a look at this right here. UK government calls on Britons to be ready for disaster. Stock up on food and water. That's not me telling you. I've been saying this message for years and years, almost going on 10 years now, but they're telling you, ladies and gentlemen. So if you're of that mindset that feels that everything's going to be all right, and you don't want to listen to us fearmongers here on YouTube or other social media platforms, then listen to your government, because they've never done you wrong. But in this case, I think that they're doing you right for the wrong reasons. They're telling you get prepared, but because now they want to take us to war. A new website created by the British government is telling citizens of the United Kingdom how to stockpile food and water and develop a household emergency plan to be ready to meet all kinds of disaster. This is a message that should be put out by governments all over the world, all of the time. It should be something that's taught in school, just a class on general preparedness and the things that you need to get through a few days in case anything happens. We are working ahead of time to equip the entire society to prepare for and even prevent the next shock. The list of possible shocks that the UK could confront, as stated by the government, includes a cyber attack, power outages, which is probably more likely, natural disasters, and biohazards. And on this site, they introduce you to a website that the government has prepared to encourage the public to stock up on essential items to prepare for emergencies. These items include tinned food, bottled water, and batteries. And at the end of this short presentation, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to give you a list that I came up with that is a very general list that you yourself can take and expand on. Because a lot of people ask me, what should I stockpile? What should I put away? But we're all different, and we're all in different parts of our lives. So that list will be different for everyone. But I figured if I give you a general list, you can take and say, oh, I can branch off of this and branch off of that and make it your own. And it is very simple and easy for you to get prepared and forget about it if you want to. You can get prepared, forget about it, put it away until you need to break that glass and get into it if you don't want to live within the preparedness lifestyle. War is in the air. Why is Sweden telling its citizens to prepare for war? Well, you all know that Sweden is not part of NATO yet, and I do believe that Russia has told Sweden, hey, if you guys become part of NATO, you better be prepared to face the repercussions. At an annual security and defense conference in Sweden on January 7th of this year, the country's civil defense minister told attendees that there would be war in Sweden. Plain and simple, there will be war in Sweden. They are getting ready for war, ladies and gentlemen. Who's they? The statesmen of all of these countries. They need a war. Why? In my humble opinion, this financial system is almost over, and the best way to cover up the failures of governments is by politicians sending us to war. And these articles aren't that old. A lot of them are from 2024. I will go ahead and leave the link of all of these on a pinned comment so that you can go ahead and check them out if you like. UK Army Chief warns citizens to prepare for massive war with Russia. How much more plain can you put it than that, ladies and gentlemen? Russia issues ominous warning to countries preparing for war, and their secretary minister, I believe he's called Lavrov, commented on the calls by many Western nations that have anticipated a potential conflict with Russia in the coming years, saying that he hopes that those who warn about the need to prepare for war with Russia still have the instinct of self-preservation, meaning that if you know better, you will do no such thing, in my opinion. I came across this interesting question on Quora Aurora. I'm not going to read through any of the answers, but I would like you to answer it in the comments. What do you think, ladies and gentlemen? Just before the nuclear war starts, this is obviously just a fictional scenario, right? Do you think that the rich and elites will have access to early warnings that will not be available to the general public? That way, they will have enough time for themselves to be whisked away in helicopters or planes or even motorcades. What do you think will happen, ladies and gentlemen, if and when, hopefully never when, but if they see ICBMs coming across the Atlantic and the Pacific, etc., and they know that there's only a certain amount of minutes left before it actually makes contact? Do you think they'll say anything, or do you think that they'll just be whisked away to their little bunkers so that they can be safe from the fallout? And I mean, we've been talking about this here for a while now. Xi Jinping says he is preparing China for war. The world should take him seriously. Remember a few years back, maybe close to 3 years ago, we were talking, goodness gracious, China is buying up all of the world's food. They were sitting on a stockpile of like a year's supply of corn and wheat, soybeans, etc., etc. Do you think that they've drawn that stockpile down, or do you think that they're probably rotating that stockpile, knowing what is more than likely coming in the future? I would say that they're probably prepping on a national scale. Air Force General predicts war with China in 2025, tells officers to prepare by firing a clip at a target and aiming for the head. And this article is not very old, just over a year. A 4-star Air Force general sent a memo on Friday to the officers he commands that predicts the U.S. will be at war with China in 2 years. This was back in 2023. And tells them to get ready to prep by firing a clip at a target and aiming for the head. And he pretty much says, ladies and gentlemen, that since towards the end of 2024, both Taiwan and the U.S. are going to have elections, that we will both be distracted, giving China the upper hand. As Europe's armies brace for war, allies call on Canada and others to catch up. Just a few days ago, government warns families to stock up on at least 3 days of food. Supermarkets urge against panic buying as government launches Preppers website, warning families to start a national crisis emergency kit of tinned food, batteries, and bottled water. Australia must consider bringing back conscription as all-out war with Russia looms, expert says. Now, this is a couple of years old, but do you think that they have stopped preparing? Japan is preparing for war with China, say all telltale signs, and this is about a year and a half old or so. But do you think that Japan has stopped preparing for all-out war with China? Poland is preparing for threat of war with Russia, defense minister says just a couple of months ago this year. Ladies and gentlemen, the point that I'm trying to make is that for all of these years, us wackos on YouTube and other social media platforms have been saying, get prepared for anything. Some channels are more in tune with a specific thing that you should get prepared for, like for nuclear war, or for a cyber attack, or for the infrastructure being targeted by bad people, etc., etc. But what I say is that if you want to be prepared for almost anything, but you don't want to live that preparedness lifestyle, all right? If you don't want to be out there pointing your solar panels at the sun every day and trying to figure out what's the best position for the day when the lights do go out, if they ever do go out, and you just want to go ahead and put a stockpile of prep items away, you know, and then, like I said earlier, break the glass when needed, then go ahead and take a look at this list. And look, I just started with the basics, and we always start with food. Why? Because humans like to eat. So rice and beans pretty much means anything that you eat, go ahead and put it away. Try to put away as much as you can, depending on how long you want to survive for in the worst of situations. The reason that I like to put rice and beans for number one is because that represents things that will last a very long time. So if you put away, for example, rice and beans in the dry form, you put them away in a sealed package with an oxygen absorber, put them somewhere where rats and mice and stuff like that can't get to it, it's going to last you 25 years. So you can put it away, forget about it. If you ever need it, you can break into it and use it. But of course, you're going to need stuff to be able to cook it with, right? So these are the things that you can branch off of each of these line items. Legumes, again, beans. Freeze-dried meats last 25, even up to 40 years. There's been some freeze-dried items that have lasted 40 years or more. A couple of years ago, I opened up a couple of cans of Noah's Ark. I think it was freeze-dried or dehydrated vegetables, and they were still good. I even opened up a can of crystallized tomato powder that I'm still using to this day, and it's almost 50 years old. Let's see, freeze-dried veggies and fruits, they last 25, 30 years. Spices of all kinds. If you don't use them, you can barter them. Sugar and honey last forever. Enough water for 7 days, but make sure that you have a good supply of water filters. You do that, you put it away for long term, you adjust this list right here to something that will suit you and your family better, then you can just leave it away and don't have to worry about it. Looking at medicines really quick, and yes, ladies and gentlemen, I will use this list to plug a couple of my affiliates. I forgot to plug SimPure water purification for the water filters. Go check them out. They have great prices on everything, and I always have a 20% coupon off. And all of the links, of course, are on the description of my videos. Medicines, prescription medications that you need to stay alive. Go check out my Jase medical link, and I do believe that they have a $20 off coupon for a while now. I'll go ahead and put the code on there if it does apply, but they do what is a 12-month prescription medication, which means that is, for example, you take medication X that you need to stay alive, and I'm just going to make one up. Let's say heart medication, right? You need this to stay alive. Well, your doctor will probably only give you up to, I think, all right, I'm not a pro at this, but maybe like 3 months prescription at one time, right? Well, Jase will give you up to a 12-month prescription. Yes, you have to pay for it, but you'll have it to be able to rotate every time that you get some from your doctor. You can just rotate it in, and you'll always have a 1 year or more supply of that life-saving medication. Antibiotics and other medications that you may need, you can get through Jase and Contingency Medical as well. But if you can't, you can also get over-the-counter medications for pain relief, like ibuprofen, cold medication, Epsom salt, alcohol, etc. Get plenty of bandages, band-aids, splint removal, alcohol, triple antibiotic ointment, all that kind of stuff. Get Vaseline. Like I said, go ahead and segue off the list that I provided you so that you can make it your own list. But these are things that will last a very long time that you don't really have to worry about, except for those medications that you take on a daily basis. Self-defense, self-explanatory. I won't go through the list, just take a look at it, but add in or take away anything that you may want to add or want to take away. But the only thing that I will say is that if you are of the socioeconomic status where you can only afford one self-defense tool, I would make it a shotgun. Why? Because you can get different shots for those and use it for different things, like for hunting, for self-defense, even for sport. So ladies and gentlemen, I hope that that list will help you out. I hope that you will actually grab it and branch things off of it to make it your own. Now, before we continue to the second half of this video, I want to say thank you very much to Genesis Gold Group, who is the sponsor of this video. I'm not a financial advisor, but the folks at Genesis Gold Group specialize in helping those who want to diversify their excess wealth by converting their fiat currency retirement plans into a plan that is backed by real money. So if you're in a position where you are wondering what you can do in order to diversify or insulate your wealth against what I like to call the inferno of inflation, give Genesis Gold Group a call, and they can provide you with the information that you need in order to make an educated decision. So on Sunday's video, I talked about tariffs, amongst other things. For those of you that don't check out my news videos, I put one out normally on Wednesdays and on Sundays. And what I do is I compile the news that occurred on the days prior to the last video, and I go ahead and showcase it on that one video. And the reason I do that is because I used to do like a news video every day, but that really gets to you, ladies and gentlemen, mentally, right? So now I just do it hopefully twice a week, and on days like this that I actually do something that has to do with reading an article or something like that, is usually on one subject matter. But today we're going to make it on two, because again, on Sunday's video I talked about tariffs, and in my opinion, and it's still my opinion, that tariffs only hurt the consumer. Now understand that these are taxes imposed on imports, right? Who do you think is going to pay for those taxes. And if these are taxes imposed on certain things, do you think that this is a free market or not? If they were a free market, you would allow competition to go ahead and compete with each other without one or the other side trying to hinder the other one through laws, i.e. politics. The pros of tariffs, according to ChatGPT, are protection of domestic industries. And that's the one that most people would say, yeah, it's going to protect our industry. Let's say, for example, our tire industry. If we put a huge tariff on tires that are coming into our country, right? What do you think is going to happen to the price of tires altogether? Go ahead and stew on that for a little bit. So job preservation is one of the bullet points from protection of domestic industry. By making imported goods more expensive, tariffs can help protect domestic industries from foreign competition, potentially preserving local jobs. But then again, I will go back to that it takes away competition. And when competition is taken away, what happens to the goods that are left over and what happens to their prices? Industry growth. New or struggling industries can grow under the protection of tariffs, which might not survive against established international competitors. And ladies and gentlemen, if an industry of any kind does not survive, why would that be in a free market? All right, we're talking about in a free market, not because government is choosing who wins or who loses. If an industry or a business does not survive, it's more than likely because, number one, maybe it just wasn't needed and people didn't feel like spending their money on it. Number two, it could be because they were producing a product that is very well needed, but it's so needed that there's so much competition out there that there are other businesses that can provide the same service or product at a better price and even better quality of product as well. Industry growth is the next one under number one. New or struggling industries can grow under the protection of tariffs, which might not survive against established international competitors. So pretty much what this is saying is that the free market doesn't apply. And obviously it doesn't when tariffs are concerned, because the government is saying, hey, I want you guys to go ahead and buy this one instead of this one. So we're going to put a huge price on this one to try to motivate you to buy this one. Well, what about if this one has less quality? What about if this one is not the one that you want? Now you're going to have to pay twice as much for that one if you want to get the same quality that you were getting before. Again, tariffs do not promote a free market. Revenue generation, government revenue. Tariffs provide a source of income for governments which can be used to fund public services. A lot of people say, well, the government doesn't make money off of tariffs. Well, where's that extra money going to? It's not the country that's importing the goods that gets that extra money. It's the actual country that put the tariffs on those goods. National security, strategic industries. Tariffs can protect industries that are crucial for national security, ensuring that the country remains self-sufficient in critical areas. Maybe that one does make some sense when it comes to national securities, but this is a very small niche, I would say. Trade negotiation leverage. Ladies and gentlemen, we should not be using leverage. You can't have it both ways. There is a way to get great prices and great quality, and that is called the free market. It always prevails over that of tariffs. Environmental and social goals. Sustainability. Tariffs can be applied to goods produced in ways that harm the environment or violate labor standards, promoting more sustainable and ethical production practices. This, in my opinion, is only used as a political tool. And here ChatGPT talks about the cons of tariffs. Higher costs for the consumers. Increased prices. Consumers often face higher prices for goods due to the added cost of tariffs, which can reduce their purchasing power and overall standard of living. Like I said, if there is someone selling tires and all of a sudden the tires coming into the U.S. double in price, do you think that that company is going to keep the price at $100 when they can maybe charge $190, $10 less than what the competition is charging? Prices are going to go up, period. Obviously, tariffs contribute to inflation, as the higher cost of imported goods can lead to higher prices for domestic products that use imported components. You have to understand this, all right? If you're still here, first of all, you are awesome, so thank you. I am 100% pro USA, but it has to be a free market. Because humans are humans and they're going to try to make as much money as they can in as little time as they can. That is the way that business works. You never go to a business and say, yes, please go ahead and take as long as you possibly can. We're paying you by the hour, so don't worry about how long it takes you to do it. Just take as long as you possibly can take. No, they want to get the job done as soon as possible and at as little cost as possible so that they can make the higher profit. At the same time, hoping to provide the best price and the best service to the customer, ladies and gentlemen. And I do believe that one day we will be manufacturing most of those things that we need here in the United States, but it's not going to be for a good reason. In my opinion, when manufacturing comes back to the US, I mean like the way that it used to be in the 60s and the 50s, where almost everything that we made was here in the US. When that comes back, it's going to be out of need, out of necessity, not because we just want to go back to making US. No, it's going to be because there's going to be a huge event, a huge crash, in my opinion, that's going to make us have to bring our manufacturing back. Why? Because most of the countries outside of our borders, obviously, are not going to want to sell to us at the price that we want to buy things from them using the fiat currency, i.e. Federal Reserve note. This is a reason why I don't think tariffs should be used like as sanctions, retaliation, and trade wars. To solve trade disputes, no. Global instability, no. I believe that if we put a tariff on a nation, that it should be as a result of them putting a tariff on us. Because fair is fair. But also, in the end, tariffs are going to hurt the consumer. So are you wanting to pay more for something or less? So for example, let's say that Canada puts tariffs on things that are made in the US going to Canada. And then we go ahead and put tariffs on things coming from Canada. Who keeps that money? Ladies and gentlemen, see, governments, if they align with each other, they can get a lot of money from the people just by using tariffs against one another. So let's say, for example, lumber. Let's say that the U.S. puts a 100% tariff on lumber coming from Canada. Great. We're not going to buy Canadian lumber, right? But now let's say that Canada puts a 100% tariff on lumber going into Canada. Who is paying the extra money? It's the same tariff on both sides. Who is coming out of pocket for that money? The consumer is, and the government gets to keep it. And number 3 is inefficiency and market distortion. Let's see, tariffs can lead to inefficiencies by encouraging the survival of less competitive domestic industries at the expense of more efficient foreign producers. There you go. It's one of the things I was talking about. Again, the free market is the best thing for the consumer because you're going to be able to get the best product at the best price, the best service or quality for the least amount of money because there's competition. There you go. Reduce competition. With less foreign competition, domestic companies may have less incentive to innovate and improve products and services. That says it all. Ladies and gentlemen, I haven't really read this whole thing. I just punched it in and seen what it said. So it's actually planning out the way that I thought it would plan out. Economic downturn, reduced trade volumes. High tariffs can decrease the volume of trade between countries, potentially leading to slower economic growth or recession. Supply chain disruption. Tariffs can disrupt global supply chains, increasing production costs and causing delays in manufacturing process. Adverse effects on international relationships. That's self-explanatory. Pretty much tariffs can be used for a tit-for-tat thing between borders, between countries. In summary, while tariffs can protect domestic industries and generate government revenue, they can also lead to higher consumer prices. They will. Trade disputes and economic inefficiencies. The overall impact of tariffs depends on their design, implementation, and the broader context of international trade relations. So the article that I was referring to for this last Sunday's news video that I put up on tariffs was one where the Biden administration is putting a whole bunch of tariffs, pretty big tariffs on like solar panels, solar batteries, a lot of stuff to do with solar, right, on China. Because China, I guess, has figured out a way, for whatever reason, all right, ladies and gentlemen, for whatever reason, they've figured out a way to produce solar panels and batteries and stuff like that at quantity very cheaply. So the U.S. is saying, hey, man, you're taking away our sales, our people here making sales, so we're going to go ahead and put tariffs on the things coming in. So, ladies and gentlemen, what I think will end up happening is if those tariffs do actually go through, is the same thing that's happening with the EU and with India. and Russian oil. The EU is no longer buying oil from Russia, right, because of sanctions. So now what's happening? Russia is selling India 40% more oil than it did in the past, right? I think it's 40% more, right? And now India's, what's India doing? They're being smart. They're being a smart business country, I guess you can say, instead of business person. They're taking that oil that they're buying from Russia, and guess who they're selling it to? The same people that don't want to buy Russian oil. They're still using Russian oil in the EU, right? But they're buying it from India instead of Russia. Do you think that that is costing them more to buy it from India than it was from Russia, or the other way around? I would say that it's costing them more to buy from India because it's making a much longer trip, and India is obviously making money off of it. So who is paying the price? The consumer is. Same thing with a tariff. It doesn't matter which way it goes. It's the consumer that's going to pay the price. But what I'm saying is that if this does go through, I believe that the cost of solar panels, batteries, solar generators, all that kind of stuff is going to go up also. Even if China does find a way to go ahead and put it through some other country to come in here, the price is still going to go up. Now, make sure that you don't live in dream world. Yes, I said China. China makes like 90% of all the solar panels in the world. So if they put a 100% tariff on solar panels, you're going to end up paying a lot more for solar panels than you do now. Why? Because we do not have the capacity to produce the amount of solar panel that the world needs. China has taken it on to do that, and now they're selling it really cheap. You know what they're doing? They're playing the Walmart game, but for the world. They're trying to outlast every competitor in the world on making solar panels so that they'll be one of the very few that makes it for everyone, and they are. And they're succeeding, unfortunately. Should we be making solar panels here in the United States of America? Absolutely. But the incentive that you give the competitors that are here in the U.S. is by not putting tariffs on anything coming in so that they can be motivated to make a better product at a better price, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to go ahead and leave it at that. Again, thank you very much. If you're still here, you are awesome. God bless every one of you. God bless America. I'm Alaska Prepper. I am out.